sick of you people on this app. This is what you all sound like when you're talking about your genital preferences. It's not my fault that I'm only attracted to men. A lot of people have preferences for dick, and that doesn't make me transphobic.
Yeah, true, brother. Listen, man, I think it's like, it's so weird. Isn't it so weird nowadays that like you're shamed for like being attracted to people, like to just people who aren't trans? You know, like it's not that it's not transphobic, bro. Like, I'm generally attracted to women with vaginas. Now, I wouldn't say no to a woman with a penis. I mean, that sounds pretty interesting, but you know, like, but people who do, like, why do we care? Why are we so like? It's just so weird that you're so offended. This is really what it comes down to, and people won't talk about this the right way. A lot of trans people have a lot of frustrations and distress associated with the fact that most people wouldn't want to sleep with them, and so since they're offended by that, it makes them upset. And that's kind of it, man. You know? And, like, I don't like that. Like, it'd be nice if we lived in a world where everybody was attractive to everybody. But then we don't live in that world, you know? We live in the practical world. And as long as you're respectful to trans people, like, you don't have to engage with them. And I will say one thing, though. Like, you don't need to specifically say, hey, I'm not attracted to trans people. Like, when you're doing that on the internet, you're doing it for, like, attention both ways. You don't need to justify your preferences. You know what I mean? When somebody says, hey, do you want to date me? It doesn't matter if they're trans or not. You can just say, no, thank you. You say, oh, hey, you want to go out? Nah, no, thank you. Why? You don't need to know that. Like, I'm a fucking grown man. You don't need to know my reasons why. You're not my type. That's all you have to say.
Are trans men not men? I never said that they weren't. I just have...
Trans men are men, but trans men and cisgender men are different. Like, we have to acknowledge that. Like, that's just the reality of the world. I mean, like, it's an objective truth.
A preference for specific genitalia, and sleeping with a man without that would make me uncomfortable.
Okay.
You don't think that your inability to...
Hey, guys, I don't want to sleep with a man without a penis. That makes me uncomfortable. That makes sense to me. Oh, well, you're an asshole. Why, bro? Why?
Feel attraction toward...
Could you imagine being like, you're a gay woman, you won't sleep with a man? Why? You're gross. It's like, dude, stop shaming people for their preferences.
Anybody but strictly cisgendered bodies is rooted in transphobia. No, I'm not transphobic. I support trans people, but that doesn't mean that I have to want to sleep with you.
Yeah.
And you don't think the way that you've now centered this conversation in a way that makes me seem sexually predatory for simply asking you and other cis people to analyze the way that you've been taught to base people's worth around their genitals?
Bro, what? Wait, so no, that's your fault. So basically what's happening is people are like, yeah, I support trans people, but I don't really necessarily want to sleep with trans people. And so the reaction from some trans people, not even most, because I think most trans people understand, is like, oh, well, what about, like, oh, so you have a genital preference? Like, that's fucked up. It's like, well, yeah, I do. And so now what's happening is trans people are being, the people who are defending this, not even trans people, the framing is like, when you are this is really what's happening. They're being so aggressive about how you should be attracted to them that it becomes predatory sounding. Like, yeah, it does. When you try to constantly harass somebody about wanting to fuck you, it becomes predatory, regardless of who does it. So when somebody expresses, this is my particular preference, and then you say, well, why aren't you attracted to me? And they say, oh, I'm not. And then you call them transphobic. That is very similar to a guy that's like, why won't you sleep with me? And then when he says, oh, I'm not ready for it, they go, well, you're just a prude. It's shaming people into having sex with you. And that's not a trans problem. That's a problem with some people. Not all of them are trans that do this. A lot of people are like virtue signalers that want to support what you think trans rights are on the internet, when trans rights have nothing to do with whether you'll fuck somebody or not. Trans rights in the real world are like, hey, we should have access to, honestly, to me, trans rights is like, hey, we don't want to get the shit beaten out of us just for being trans, and like the insurance companies should cover transitional surgeries. That's what trans people are fighting for. And this person is like, no, I want all people to want to fuck me. And that's where it becomes like, yeah, almost like borderline predatory. When you shame people for not wanting to have sex with you.
Is based in transphobia? No, because if I slept with someone with a vagina, then that would make me bisexual. Never mind, you're right. Your allyship is impressive. Thank you so much.
What is allyship to you? I find it interesting what is allyship to you. Allyship seems to you to be pander to every single thing that I feel, want, and desire, rather than creating a comfortable space for everybody in society. We shouldn't be shamed into wanting to fuck trans people. That wasn't even an intelligent thing that I had heard. I've seen this content creator before, and they support that message. And it's just unfortunate that we're not having honest conversations about shit that matters. Trans people's last concern is who wants to fuck them. Their biggest concern should be to make sure that they're safe and have access to healthcare. But, of course, the conversation shifts because people who are generally privileged, and regardless of identity community, when they're not feeling oppressed, they'll look for some kind of oppression. I'm not saying trans people aren't oppressed, because there are. But the most privileged individuals in any group will say, my group is generally oppressed, even if I can't identify with that oppression, so I'm going to create a new problem. That's what's happening. I am offended by a thing, even though it is not offensive, so I'm going to manipulate you into believing it's offensive, and then when you don't agree with me, I'm going to shame the fuck out of you and call you something that you would not want to be called. Nobody wants to be called transphobic. Some people do, obviously, transphobic people, but nobody wants to be called transphobic. So your option here is to either accept the shame tactic, literally somebody shaming you into wanting to have sex with them. You either accept it and you just say, okay, fine, I'll sleep with trans people, and then feel very uncomfortable with yourself, or you just say, fuck it, call me transphobic. You're wrong. It's just kind of sad, bro. Hey everyone, if you liked that video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to follow my Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, Discord, and TikTok. All links are in the description. Also, check out my Patreon if you'd like to support me even more than you already do. Thank you so much, everyone. I love you all.